The story of the shortest war in history happened on one of the islands on the East African coast called Zanzibar. Now, this was way back in 1896. Today, Zanzibar is a semi-autonomous region of Tanzania. So it all started with a treaty that had been signed by the British and the Germans when it came to who would have influence over this particular land. The Germans had taken control of mainland Tanzania, and it was agreed that the British would take control of the island of Zanzibar. A few years after taking control of Zanzibar, the British approved the installation of the Sultan Sheikh Hamoud bin Thuwaini to take over the leadership of the Sultanate of Zanzibar. Now, this particular Sultan, he was seen as a puppet for the British. And this did not sit well with some members of the inner circle of the Sultan. And so, a few years into his reign, Sheikh Hamoud bin Thuwaini died mysteriously. And it is believed, even till this day, that there was foul play when it came to the death of the Sultan. And maybe this was compounded with the fact that just a few hours after the Sultan was pronounced dead, a cousin of his, Sheikh Khalid bin Bagash, proclaimed himself the new Sultan. But I want you to know that part of the conditions that the British had given to the Sultanate of Zanzibar was that the Sultan had to be approved by the British before they took office. Now, here was Sheikh Khalid bin Bagash, who proclaimed himself as Sultan without the approval of the British. And as you could have guessed, Sheikh Khalid bin Bagash was anti-British. Now, this is the circumstance that leads us into the shortest war in history. Let me take you through the sequence of events. On the 25th of August, 1896, the pro-British Sultan Sheikh Hamoud bin Thuwaini dies mysteriously, and on that same day, anti-British Sultan Sheikh Khalid bin Bagash proclaims himself as the new Sultan of Zanzibar. The following day, the 26th of August, the diplomats on the island begin to talk back and forth, trying to get a solution with the Sultan and the British. And by the end of the 26th, it became clear that the Sultan was not planning to step down. He turned the palace into a fortress with about 3,000 men holding guard. And as a result of this, British warships started anchoring the harbor, preparing for war. 27th August, 1896. The British demanded that the Sultan surrender or risk confrontation. Sheikh Khalid bin Bagash made it clear that they had no intention to surrender. At about 2 minutes past 9 a.m., the British commenced bombardment of the palace. At 9:40 a.m., the guns fell silent, and within that time, the Sultan's palace had turned into a pile of rubble. And it became clear that Sheikh Khalid bin Bagash had been defeated. The war had taken 38 minutes, and it is the shortest war in the history of the world. On that very afternoon of 27th August 1896, the British installed a new Sultan, Hamoud bin Muhammad, who agreed to all the conditionalities that the British had laid before him. That is it for this episode. Thank you very much for listening in.